31. The first one is this one over here. It means to copy, and the second one here means true. You put the two together, to copy and then true. To make a true copy, you get shashin, shashin. That's a photograph, of course. Let's have a look at this kanji over here and check the stroke order. Now we're going to start at the top with the roof. This is a roof over the top. This is ichi, and then ni, working obviously from top to bottom and left to right. Now, so that's a roof over the head. When you do your photocopying or you take your photo, you're often going to be under a roof, and you're often going to make 51 copies. So here we're going to do what looks to me very much like a 51, starting with the third stroke, san. There's the rest of the 5. Obviously it's not really a 5, and there's your 1. So ich, ni, san, shi, go. Under a roof, 51 copies. That's your sha from shashin. Now we're going to have a look at the second kanji of shashin, and that's this one here, and it means true. Let's just check out the kakijun before we go any further. We start by going across, ich, ni, down on the left, san. Now whenever we go across and have a right hand stroke, it's always in one, isn't it? Shi, then fill in the middle, go roku, before completing the box shape, left to right. Then we've got underneath a table, and then the final 2 strokes of the table legs. Okay, the etymology of this is not all that useful, so I'm going to share with you the way I remember that, and I use slightly religious imagery to help me with this one. First of all, the top there I see as a cross, because this has got to do with the ultimate truth. By the way, you can't use it on its own to mean truth. You have to use it with other things. Its core meaning is truth. It doesn't actually stand for the word truth when you want to make a sentence. So on the top you've got the cross. Underneath you've got the eye. So there you've got the eye of God. And here you've got the table. That could be the altar, couldn't it? So you've got the eye of God on the altar, and that's telling you the absolute truth. And that's the way that I remember it. Shin from shashin. Now we're going to look at this lovely word flower viewing. Now you might wonder why there's a special word flower viewing, but this is a traditional activity in Japan. As soon as the sakura, the cherry blossoms, come out, then everybody flocks outside to wherever there's a beautiful cherry blossom tree, sits underneath and has a picnic whilst they enjoy flower viewing. Hanami, literally flower, hana plus si, mi, hanami. And this is what hanami looks like. People bring out their plastic sheets to sit on, and they sit on those plastic sheets. Notice though, they still don't wear their shoes on those plastic sheets. They leave their shoes around there, just like they would if they were going into a house, and they enjoy lovely food. And a lot of adults like to enjoy a drink or two whilst they sit underneath the sakura and they have a look at the flowers, which they call hanami. First kanji that we need for flower viewing is flower, and this is what it looks like. Let's have a look at the kakijun. There we go. I've got ich, ni, san, and that's the grass element on top. Shi, go, roku, shichi. Let's take a quick look at the etymology of that kanji. There it is. Now, if you have a look at the top, I mentioned that that was grass, and you can see very clearly in the various forms that remain from ancient times, that does indeed look like grass on the top. Now, the bottom bit is much harder to identify. This is what it looks like these days, and it's actually there for its sound rather than anything else. But it does look like, on the left-hand side, that is the way that we represent a person kanji, hito. If I just draw this kanji over here, hito, when you squash that kanji up and make it part of another kanji, turn it into a kanji element, that's what it looks like. So that actually represents or often represents a person. In this case, as I said, it's there for the sound, but we can take it as a person. Then on the right-hand side, we have the katakana he. And remember the story that we learned for katakana he was that it's a little baby. There are his little hands, and this is his little head. And he's sitting there on the ground in his little nappy, and he wants to be picked up. So you can think of this kanji actually as meaning change. And in fact, if it doesn't have the grass on top, that's what this kanji means. It means change. If you think about it, a little tiny baby does eventually change into an actual person, doesn't it? And when you've got grass and it changes, it can change into a flower or hana. The next part of hanami is just the kanji mi, to see, and you already have learned that. So hanami should be quite easy for you. Finally, we have this one, fire plus mountain. Now we already know fire, that's the ka from kayobi, Tuesday, and we're going to add it to mountain, and there it is. And we get fire mountain, which is pronounced using the Chinese pronunciation of the onyomi, and that becomes kazan. Kazan. Now mountain's a terribly easy one to do. Let's look at the etymology of this one, because you can see quite clearly it's just a picture of some mountains. These are the original ones which date back towards 4,000 years ago, the oracle characters, and then if we have a look at the slightly more modern, that's about 3,000 odd years ago, you can see still there's the mountain shape, but it's starting to look there a little bit more like the modern one. And then here 2,000 years ago, this was what it looked like, and of course when they formalized it, they're stuck with roughly that shape, and that's what we use today. Literally 3 mountains. Let's have a look at the kakijin. Ich, one tall mountain in the middle. Ni, a mountain on the left. San, and there's your kanji for mountain. Yama, yama, or the Chinese reading, sun. In the case of volcano, we're going to be using, of course, the Chinese reading, the onyomi, and we have kazan, kazan, volcano. And that's it.